Welcome to Using Your Teacher Voice, episode 17. This is my last week for a student teacher. She finishes up this week. This will be her 14th week. She has her first job lined up for next year. That is super exciting. She's going back to where she graduated from, and that's always good. It's always good to go back where you're comfortable, where you're familiar with things. It's going to be a nice environment for her to learn and pick up and start off on the right foot, I hope. And, I also told her that it was great not to have to worry about, getting that first job, spending all summer, interviewing and chasing jobs and whatever. I mean, that's just huge to have that off of her shoulders. So super excited for her on that. Looking back on our 14 weeks, I think it's really cool that I feel like I've learned some things along the way. So this week we filled out her evaluations, and it's kind of cool to look at some of those things like, hey, this is what you really did well, and here's where you grew. This is where you were in the beginning of the year or the beginning of the semester. Here's where you are now. It was awesome to see that growth. It was very exciting to see that. As I look back at our time together, it is for me easy to see where I picked up some things as well. I think in my podcast when she first arrived, I said that, I was hopeful that, this was going to kind of light a spark under me a little bit, that it's going to kind of push me to be a little bit different. Definitely did. It definitely did. I look at how she did her assignments. I look at how everything she did was basically brand new. Okay, she had some common assessments and assignments from our PLC, and she had access to all of my stuff. So she had a great starting point. But basically everything she did was brand new. She took what we had. If she used something of mine, she always modified it. Not because she felt like she had to, but there were things that she wanted to include. She wanted to emphasize. She wanted to impress upon them. And so she always took it and made it her own a little bit. And there are many things that she started from scratch with, this is what she wanted to do. This is how she wanted to approach this. And I'm looking at that and I realize that, I think in some small way, the students appreciate that. The students like that. They know they're not getting the same old thing year after year after year. They know that this is something that she put time and effort into. And in some small, maybe subconscious way, they feel like they should put in some effort too on their side, because somebody put some effort out for them. Maybe they should return the favor. When I look at that, I think that's a great way to connect, to show the students that, I care about what we're doing. I care enough about you and what we're doing to not just rehash old stuff. I think as a veteran teacher, it is easy to fall into that trap. Maybe you don't spend time planning during your planning period like you should have. Or maybe, one night you stay out with the guys watching the game instead of putting together whatever assignment. And so the next day you get to school and you're like, oh, God, I really wanted to do this. This would have been so cool, so neat, so awesome, but I don't have it ready. I'll just do what I did last year. And you just pull out that sheet again. You pull out that assignment again. You pull out that same idea that you've done before. And it works, and it's nice to have that, that experience behind you, that if something does happen, you can, you have something to fall back on. But it's tempting that if it works once or twice, it's very tempting to do it again and again and again. And I think, unfortunately, this is how some people get into that habit of just doing the same thing every year without putting any thought, any creativity, any kind of energy into it. And so I'm looking at this, and I don't think that, I know there's some pieces that I reuse because I feel like they work. But I mean, now I have this kind of sense that, I think it really helps to take it and to modify it, at least modify it and add to it, not just reuse it. And again, or maybe it just takes starting over. I think I've learned that. I've seen that in action, and it really works. I think something, too, that really was beneficial for me was kind of a validation. I don't think I would call it, I don't think I would say I saw a mirror image of myself. I don't think that's probably the right way of saying it. But it is interesting that, everything that she did over 14 weeks, in a way, was a reflection of me. I gave her access to all my material. A lot of the things that she did were things that I had in place or that we as a PLC had in place. So, she had some framework to start with. As we went through, this is how I would handle it. This is what happened in your class today. This is what I would have done. And, she kind of takes those tips and tricks and hints and whatever, and she adopts them or modifies them or just ignores them as whatever case may be to work with her style. But as I watch how she managed the class, and then I compare it to how I did it or how I might have done it or what I have done in the past, then I can kind of start to see like, okay, so these things really worked for her. What kind of things in there can I take and incorporate into my style and build upon and make them more useful? Or, things that, maybe something did not work for her. I suggest an alternate path and she does it and it works for her. In a way, it's a validation, right, of what I did. So it's really interesting to see. And again, I don't know if reflection is the right word, but to be able to see some of the things that I did being done by somebody else, and if they work, great. And if I can kind of put my stamp on some of her things to make them effective, that's awesome too. I think, in the end, this was an awesome experience. I really enjoyed it. I would definitely do it again. I know I said before that I would be a little bit, that was one of my fears that, I might get a bad student teacher. We've had bad student teachers in our building before, but I think it was a great experience. It was a learning experience. I feel like I gained something, and I hope that in some small way I've given her something that she can use going forward, that I've given her something to build upon and to help get her off on the right foot as she starts her own career.